The hotel courtyard was closed. Then she whispered, "He has my suite number." The courtyard was closed, but Elena Parker stood beside the fountain while a silenced phone kept flashing from a blocked number. The scent of crushed boxwood leaves hung in the spring air, sharp and green beneath the faint chlorine of the hotel fountain, and the brass master key in my pocket suddenly felt heavier than usual. I had locked the wrought iron gate myself 10 minutes earlier. The Meridian's courtyard was supposed to be a sanctuary after 10, a quiet square of lantern light and clipped hedges between the grand lobby and the private event wing. Guests came here during the day to take calls, pose beside the fountain, or pretend the city beyond our gates was not loud enough to swallow them whole. At night, after the staff finished clearing the tables, I closed it because privacy was only real if someone guarded it. Elena did not look like someone trespassing. She looked like someone who had run out of safe rooms. She wore a structured black blazer over a high-neck cream blouse, formal enough for a gala rehearsal and practical enough for a woman still working. A leather event binder rested against the stone fountain beside her. Her dark hair had loosened from its careful style, and one hand stayed clasped behind her back, thumb pressed hard into the side of her index finger until the skin had gone pale. The phone flashed again. "Blocked caller?" Elena kept her eyes on me, waiting to learn whether I was another interruption or the person who would make the interruption stop. "The front desk said the courtyard was closed," she said. "It is," I replied, "but I manage the building, so I occasionally break my own rules to check the perimeter. Nathan Reed." Elena Parker. She did not offer her hand. I did not step forward to take one. In hospitality, forcing a gesture can feel polite to the person doing it and like a locked door to the person receiving it. I had learned that early from a locksmith who used to repair our old brass room locks when I was a trainee. He told me, more than once, that you do not force a seized lock. You align the pins until the tension releases itself. That principle had outlived 3 promotions, 2 recessions, and every guest who believed a loud voice could replace authorization. It applied here too. I stopped on the path, leaving the fountain, the phone, and the space around Elena fully hers. "I can leave," she said. "I only needed a minute where the air was not recycled." "You do not have to go anywhere. The garden is yours for as long as you need it." I looked once at the phone, then back to her face. But if that keeps flashing, the battery may die before morning. She looked down as it lit again. "Blocked caller." "Let it die," she said. "It is the only way he stops calling." I did not ask who he was. Curiosity without consent is just another kind of intrusion. "If you need the front desk to block incoming transfers to your suite, I can authorize that immediately." I said, "No questions asked. You only have to say the word." Her thumb pressed harder into her finger. "He is not calling through the switchboard," she said. "He has my personal number, my old confirmation number, and enough event access to get near the final auction files." That changed the courtyard into a security incident. "Elena," I said carefully, "what does he want?" She drew one slow breath. The fountain hummed behind her, constant and indifferent. David Vance was my business partner. For 2 years, he told donors he built my charity platform with me. He did not. He attached his name to the sponsor packet, used his assistant to help book this hotel, and saved every confirmation number he could find. She touched the leather binder beside her. "Tomorrow night, if he gets the final auction list or my laptop, he can hold the gala hostage until I credit him as sole founder in front of the board." There were the anchors, the reason she was here, the leverage he held, the reason I was already involved before attraction had anything to do with it. The gala was inside my hotel. Her reservation had been compromised through my booking system. Her privacy had become part of my perimeter. "Is his name on any current folio?" I asked. "It was on the original deposit record. Then he may try to request access as a co-sponsor. He already threatened it." I took out my phone but did not unlock it yet. My thumb hovered above the security app. The fountain kept humming behind her, and I lowered the phone instead of moving too quickly. "If you give me permission, I can lock the old folio, preserve the audit trail, move you to an unlisted secure annex, and restrict access to named staff only. If he shows up with confirmation numbers, My staff can truthfully tell him you are not listed where he thinks you are. You can do that without making it public? Yes. And without deleting records? We do not delete records at the Meridian. We preserve them so no one can rewrite what happened later. For the first time, her shoulders lowered a fraction. Do it, she said. Please. I tapped my earpiece and connected to the night manager. Marcus, I need a ghost protocol on the Parker reservation. Lock the original folio. Preserve the audit trail. Move all guest-facing access to the penthouse annex under the privacy alias we use for protected clients. And restrict the key issue to you, Sarah, and me. Marcus did not ask questions. Good night managers survive by understanding when curiosity is a liability. Copy, he said. Luggage? Physical transfer now, 2-person log. Photograph the luggage seal before and after. Understood. I ended the call. The phone on the fountain flashed again, then went dark. The battery had finally died. Elena looked at the black screen for a long moment. Then she picked it up and slipped it into her blazer pocket like she was putting away a small, exhausted animal. Your new keys will be waiting with me in the back office, I said, whenever you're ready to go inside. She glanced at the locked courtyard gate. I should be embarrassed. About needing privacy? About needing help. That is not the same thing. Her mouth tightened, not quite a smile. Hotelier answer. Locksmith answer. She looked at me then, properly. Meaning? You do not force a seized lock, I said. You align the pins until the tension releases itself. Her thumb eased away from her index finger. The crescent mark remained. Then align the pins, Mr. Reed. Nathan? Nathan, she corrected, and this time the almost smile held. Inside, the Meridian was all polished stone, soft gold light, and professional quiet. The lobby smelled faintly of lilies from the gala arrangements waiting in cold storage. The chandeliers scattered light across the marble floor. Behind the reception desk, Sarah was already working with the efficient calm of someone who had handled celebrities, diplomats, and one opera singer who insisted his emotional support parrot needed a minibar key. Elena stayed half a step behind me as we crossed the lobby. Not hidden, not displayed, just shielded from unnecessary attention. Sarah looked up once, read my expression, and immediately lowered her voice. Ms. Parker, your privacy transfer is complete. Your previous room is locked for audit preservation. Your new suite is in the annex. No guest-facing record will show your name or room number. Elena accepted the key folder with both hands. Thank you. Sarah smiled gently. Of course. I saw Elena notice the absence of curiosity. No raised eyebrow, no hungry glance at her phone, no silent judgment. The Meridian charged too much for rooms because we sold more than linens and skyline views. We sold the right to exist without being studied. I walked Elena to the private elevator bank. The annex floor has a separate corridor camera and only 2 staff access points, I said. Marcus will send your luggage after the transfer log is signed. Your laptop? With me. Good. Tonight, sleep if you can. Tomorrow, we tighten the rest. She stepped into the elevator, then turned. You say that like you already know there is more. There is always more. That sounds grim. It is practical. The elevator doors began closing. Her expression softened by a millimeter. Good night, Nathan. Good night, Ms. Parker. Elena. The doors closed before I could answer. I stood there until the indicator showed the annex floor. Only then did I return to the courtyard to retrieve the dead phone charger she had forgotten beside the fountain. It was not necessary. It was also the kind of small thing a frightened person should not have to remember. The next morning, the Meridian became a machine with 600 moving parts and one central risk. The charity gala would open at 7 that evening in our Grand Meridian ballroom. By lunch, florists were carrying white orchids through the service corridors. Auction staff were unpacking jewelry cases under camera supervision. Caterers were arguing about an unexpected shellfish allergy at table 12. Donor escorts were calling for revised parking instructions. The string quartet wanted 1 more riser. The lighting designer wanted 30 more minutes. The foundation board wanted reassurance that the guest list was still confidential. Elena gave it to all of them. From the mezzanine. I watched her move through the ballroom with a black tablet in one hand and a pencil tucked behind her ear. She was precise without being sharp. She corrected the spacing of the auction tables, approved the lighting wash, rerouted a floral arch away from a wheelchair access lane, and caught a misspelled donor name on a place card before it became a public insult. She did not look like a woman hiding from a blocked caller. She looked like a woman refusing to let fear dictate the seating chart. Still, the small tells remained. At 11:40, she skipped lunch. At 12:15, she checked the dead phone out of habit, then remembered it was in my security office charging under Marcus's supervision. At 1:10, she saw a man in a navy suit pass the ballroom doors and went completely still until he turned out to be a lighting vendor. Around 2, my radio clicked twice. "Code yellow at front desk," Sarah said through the earpiece. Her voice remained smooth, which meant the lobby guests had not noticed yet. "A David Vance is requesting a duplicate key." I took the service stairs down. The front desk smelled of polished wood and fresh coffee. David Vance leaned on the marble counter with the impatient ease of a man who had been rewarded too often for making junior staff uncomfortable. He wore a tailored gray suit, a luxury watch, and a smile that did not reach his eyes. A premium credit card tapped against the counter. Tap, tap, tap. Sarah stood behind the desk with perfect neutrality. "I apologize, Mr. Vance," she said. "I have no current registration under that name." "Not under my name," he snapped. "Under Parker, Elena Parker, Suite 412. I booked the original event block through my assistant. I need to retrieve shared documents for the gala tonight." I stepped behind the desk. Sarah moved half a step aside, not because she needed rescue, but because she knew this was now mine to contain. "Mr. Vance," I said, "Nathan Reed, Managing Director. How can I assist?" He scanned my nameplate, then my suit, then the controlled distance between my hands and the counter. "Your system is failing. I have the confirmation number. I have the deposit receipt. I am a co-sponsor of the event in your ballroom." "That may have been true at the deposit stage," I said. "It is not true on any current registered folio." He held up his phone. "This says otherwise." "I do not need to look at your screen. A receipt is not a key credential. Unless your name appears on the active secure folio and your photo identification matches that folio, I cannot issue room access." His smile flattened. "She has documents that belong to me." "You are welcome to leave documents for the event with the concierge. We will log them and ensure they reach the organizer." "I need to go upstairs." "No." The word was quiet. It landed anyway. The tapping credit card stopped. David looked past me toward the elevators. "If this event fails because your hotel obstructed a founding sponsor, your board will hear about it." "My board hears about many things," I said. "Guest privacy violations will not be one of them." The lobby seemed very still for half a second. Then a family of 4 rolled luggage past us, laughing about the elevator mirrors, and the spell broke. David pocketed the card. "This is not over." "I will document that statement as part of the interaction log." His face changed. Men like him hated documentation because it created a world where tone no longer worked as evidence. He turned and walked out through the revolving doors. I waited until he was beyond the entrance cameras. "Sarah." "Already logging," she said. "Timestamp, physical description, request type, denied credential, verbal threat." "Good. Add a property notice. If he returns, he does not cross the threshold without me or security present." "Understood." She paused. Then, "Dry as winter leaves," she added. "For the record, he has the energy of a man who complains about linen napkin folds." I looked at her. "That is oddly specific. I have been at this desk too long." That small laugh from her was exactly what the room needed. The threat had passed for now. The next step was Elena. I found her behind the kitchen, standing near a stainless steel prep table with her tablet tucked against her ribs. Steam from the dishwashers fogged the edge of the service window. Somewhere behind the swinging doors, a chef was explaining that slightly warmer was not a temperature category. Elena saw me and read the answer before I spoke. "He came." "Yes?" "He asked for my room." "He did not get it." Her eyes closed, the tablet pressed harder against her side. I stopped 4 feet away, close enough to be heard over the kitchen noise, not close enough to crowd her. He claimed he needed shared documents for tonight. I said, Sarah logged the request. Cameras have the interaction. Your old folio remains locked and preserved. He was going for the laptop, she said. The laptop is in the annex. He knows I keep the final auction list offline until the last minute. If he gets it, he can call 3 board members, threaten to expose donor bids as corrupted, and force me to put him on stage as sole founder before the auction starts. There it was, sharper than last night. Not just harassment, a hostile attempt to control the event narrative. Then we remove his leverage from every system he can touch. I said, how? He is still tangled in the master billing account from the original deposit. If he can claim financial stake, he can create confusion with vendors or the foundation board. I need to separate his corporate entity from your venue rental, assign liabilities to a dummy holding ledger, and document that your gala funding is independent. She opened her eyes. You want to go through my finances 5 hours before doors open. I want to build a perimeter he cannot breach. I said, but I cannot do it alone, and I will not touch your private records without you sitting beside me. Do I have your consent to pull the folios? The dishwasher hissed behind us. Elena looked down at her tablet. Then at the service corridor full of moving staff, every one of them depending on her to keep the evening upright. Yes, she said, pull them. The executive back office sat behind 2 acoustic doors, far from the guest corridors and kitchen noise. It smelled faintly of old paper, polished mahogany, and the ozone tang from the server rack closet behind the wall. I brought a second chair around to my side of the desk so Elena could see the monitor. Not too close. Not far enough to make her feel excluded from her own records. Before I sat, I walked to the small kitchenette. At the caterer briefing that morning, I had watched her make tea while answering 3 questions and approving a linen replacement, chamomile, 2 packets of honey, stirred once clockwise, twice counterclockwise, then forgotten until it was nearly cold. This time, I steeped it properly, added exactly 2 honeys, and set it on the coaster near her hand. She looked at the mug, then at me. You noticed. I notice a lot of things. That could be comforting or terrifying. In my hotel, I aim for comforting. The corner of her mouth lifted. 1 point for the tea. We opened the folios. For the next hour, we worked through the financial skeleton of the event, deposit history, vendor pass-throughs, sponsor credits, ballroom rental, security addendum, V equipment, catering guarantee, floral installation, charity foundation escrow. Every line tied to David's corporate card or signature authority went into a secondary liability ledger. Every line tied to Elena's foundation, firm, or personal guarantor stayed attached to the master event. It was not romantic in any ordinary sense. The lighting was harsh. The monitor glare made both of us squint. My keyboard clicked steadily. The server rack hummed behind the wall. Elena sat with her tablet in her lap, calling out codes, vendor names, and invoice numbers from memory with the precision of someone who had built the event from the screws upward. But somewhere between the AV deposit and the floral retainer, the locked feeling in the room began to release. This one, she said, tapping the screen, the projection map fee. He insisted his firm cover it because he wanted logo placement on the ballroom wall. Removed, liability assigned to Vance Creative Holdings. This one, champagne upgrade. He ordered it after I rejected it. Removed. That one is mine. Foundation pledge dinner? Yes. Stays. She reached for her tea and found it still warm. That is suspiciously useful. I try. You succeed quietly. I have found that loud usefulness makes people wary. David loved loud usefulness. Then we will avoid it. She laughed once, very softly. The sound did more to the room than the tea. By the end of the audit, David's side of the ledger held every unauthorized charge, every vanity upgrade, every line he had planned to use as proof of co-sponsor control. Elena's master event account stood clean. I generated the PDF, applied the internal timestamp, and routed it to accounting for a sworn verification. Done, I said. He now has 0 venue rental leverage. If he enters the gala tonight without an invitation, this is not a civil sponsorship dispute. It is trespass. Elena stared at the screen. He told me I was too disorganized to run events without him, she said, that my talent was taste, not structure. The details on this event are flawless. You do not have to say that. I am not flattering you. I am reading the room. I have worked with hundreds of coordinators. Your access map, donor pacing, kitchen timing, and auction security are stronger than most corporate summits we host. She turned toward me, close enough to speak quietly, far enough that the desk still held the boundary between us. For a second, neither of us moved. I flattened both hands on the mahogany. The server rack hummed through the wall, and I moved my chair back 1 inch before the silence could ask for something neither of us was ready to name. We are done here, I said. The folio is locked. You need to get back to your gala. She studied me. You always do that. What? Create a door before anyone has to ask for one. I looked at the brass master key on the desk. That is the job. No, she said, that is the character. I did not know what to do with that, so I picked up the accounting packet and stood. Before we left the office, Marcus called my direct line. Delivery dock problem, he said. A courier is here with a replacement media drive from Vance Creative Holdings. He says, Ms. Parker approved the switch. Elena closed her eyes for 1 second. I approved no such thing. Do not touch the drive. I told Marcus, photograph the label, log the courier, hold it in the evidence drawer, and send him to the public entrance if he insists on waiting. Elena, Marcus asked through the speaker, do you want me to refuse delivery under your authority? She straightened in her chair. The exhaustion did not leave her face, but something sharper came forward. Yes, she said, refuse it. The gala is running on my internal media package only. No outside replacements, no courtesy updates, no last-minute sponsor materials. Copy. The line clicked off. I looked at her. That was bait. I know. She reached for the pencil she had tucked behind her ear and made a clean line through one item on her list. David always labels control as convenience. The sentence was quiet, and it told me more than a longer confession would have. We moved from the executive office to the AV booth, where the technician looked as if he had aged 3 years since breakfast. The projection system sat open on 3 monitors, donor names, auction slides, foundation history, live bid totals. If David inserted even one corrupted file into that chain, he would not need Elena's laptop. He could humiliate her in front of the room with a single false screen. Elena did not look at me to solve it. She looked at the technician. Show me the drive map. He blinked. The whole map. The whole map. He opened the source panel. She leaned over the console, not touching the keyboard until he gave her permission. I watched her trace the pathway. Internal server, ballroom playback, auction display, backup projector, lobby loop. She knew the flow because she had built the presentation herself at 2 a.m. over 3 weeks of rehearsals. This one is wrong, she said, pointing to a mirrored media folder. That path should not exist. The technician swallowed. It appeared after the last sponsor test. I stepped closer to the rack, keeping my hands behind my back until he nodded. May I? Please. I checked the physical cable stack and found a small wireless bridge tucked behind the monitor switch. Not part of our equipment. Black casing, no hotel inventory sticker. A polite little parasite. Elena saw it at the same time I did. David had not needed a key if he could make the room live from the inside. I disconnected the bridge, dropped it into an evidence bag, and wrote the time on the seal. Elena turned to the technician. From now until the auction closes, every file change goes through me and Mr. Reed. No exceptions. Yes, ma'am. Her voice stayed calm, but the pencil in her hand snapped cleanly in 2. I reached into my jacket pocket and offered her a hotel pen. She looked at it, then at the broken pencil. Do you always carry backup writing instruments? I run a hotel. Half the building is held together by pens, apologies, and extension cords. That drew the smallest smile out of the technician. Elena took the pen. Useful again. Quietly, I said, we rebuilt the AV route together. Not metaphorically, actually. She verified every slide. I verified every access point. The technician rebooted the system while Marcus sealed the booth door and logged a restricted access list. Elena caught one misspelled donor name in the Foundation history reel and corrected it without drama. I added a network rule, blocking any device not registered under the ballroom system. When the test ran clean, the words Foundation Gala appeared on the screen exactly as planned, plain and harmless and suddenly worth defending. Elena stood in the booth doorway, watching the ballroom crew move below us. "David would have waited until the tribute video," she said. "That is when everyone would look up. Now he cannot. He will try something else." "Yes." She absorbed that without panic. "Then we keep aligning pins." The phrase sounded different in her voice. Less like a rule, more like a tool she had decided to use. The gala began with violins. By 7:30, the Grand Meridian Ballroom had become exactly what Elena intended: violet light on white orchids, polished tables, silver auction plaques, and 300 donors convinced they had stepped into something effortless. Nothing about it was effortless. I stood near the entrance with my hands behind my back and an earpiece in my right ear. Marcus monitored the annex floor. Sarah controlled guest credential checks. Accounting had the sworn audit ready in a sealed folder. Security had David's face in the alert channel. Elena moved through the ballroom in a formal navy gown with a high neckline and clean structured lines. Not decorative armor, but professional command. She laughed with donors, adjusted the pace of the first silent auction, signaled a server before a water glass tipped, and made the Foundation chair feel like the most important person in the room while also keeping one eye on the ballroom doors. At 8:20, a caterer nearly sent the wrong meal to a donor with a severe allergy. Elena intercepted the plate before I could move. She did not scold. She handed the server the correct card, rerouted the plate, and smiled at the donor like nothing had happened. At 8:45, the projection map flickered. I saw her glance toward the AV booth. I lifted 2 fingers to my ear. "AV status?" "External drive attempted to connect," Marcus said. "Blocked. We are on internal playback only." "Keep it that way." Elena saw my nod from across the room. Her shoulders stayed level. The pins were aligning. At 9 o'clock, my earpiece cracked. "Code red at ballroom entrance," Sarah said. "Vance is here with a folder." I moved before the second sentence ended. 2 plainclothes security officers shifted with me, not rushing, not alarming guests. We reached the grand foyer just as David pushed past the credential table. "I have every right to be here," he shouted. His voice carried under the archway. Several donors near the ballroom entrance turned. David held a thick manila folder high enough to be seen. "I have proof that Elena Parker forged the audit trail on this event," he called. "She locked me out because she is hiding Foundation money." The string quartet inside the ballroom faltered. Not stopped. Faltered. Enough for people to hear silence gathering. I stepped into David's path. "Mr. Vance, you are trespassing on private property. I am a founding sponsor. You are not listed on the active sponsor ledger." He smiled. There was the moment he had prepared for. She altered it. "I have digital logs proving she used Foundation accounts to cover this venue." Elena appeared at the ballroom threshold. Her face had gone pale, but she did not hide behind me. She came to stand on my right, where the donors could see her. David turned toward her. "Tell them, Elena, tell them how you erased me from your little charity fantasy." I did not raise my voice. I reached into my jacket and removed the sealed accounting folder. "Mr. Vance," I said, "what you are holding are spoofed IP logs routed through our public Wi-Fi portal at 6:15 tonight. Our server flagged the bounce back when an external device attempted to stage a false access trail inside the ballroom projection system." David's smile cracked. I opened the folder. "This is a sworn time-stamped audit from the Meridian's accounting department. It confirms Ms. Parker's gala funding is independent, verified, and separate from your corporate entity. It also documents your denied key request, your lack of current sponsor status, and the preservation of the original folio record." A board member moved closer. So did 2 donors. David looked around and found the room turning from spectacle to witness. I turned to Elena. The old locksmith's phrase moved through my mind. You do not force the lock. This was her door. Ms. Parker, I said, formal enough for the room, quiet enough for her to know I meant it. This man is trespassing at your private event. Would you like my team to remove him? Elena took one breath. Then she turned fully toward David. My foundation will not be held hostage by forged records or old access codes, she said, her voice clear enough to reach the open ballroom doors. You are no longer a sponsor, no longer a partner, and no longer welcome at this event. Mr. Reed, please escort him out. The first security officer stepped forward. Then the second. David did not fight. He had built his power on rooms where people were too embarrassed to name the threat. Elena had named it, and the foyer no longer belonged to him. As they guided him toward the entrance, he looked back once. No one followed. The doors closed behind him. For 1 second, the foyer held its breath. Then Elena faced the donors. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, and somehow smiled like she had been born in the center of a crisis. The next auction lot is the Coastal Arts Residency package, and I am told the bidding war has already offended 3 board members and 1 retired judge. Please do not let a procedural interruption save them money. A laugh moved through the crowd. Real? Relieved? The string quartet found its place again. The ballroom recovered because Elena gave it permission to. I stood beside the foyer column, the accounting folder still in my hand, and watched her walk back into the event she had saved with her own voice. Marcus came through the side hall. Clean removal, he said. Vance is off property. Police report available if she wants it. Accounting packet copied to legal. Good. Sarah's voice came through the earpiece. Also, Table 9 just bid double estimate on the Coastal Residency. Marcus smiled. Fear of retired judges is powerful. I almost laughed. Almost. 20 minutes later, the auction was moving like nothing had happened. That was the strange cruelty of good event work. If you did it perfectly, the crisis disappeared from everyone else's memory. Elena deserved to remember that she had survived it. I did one final lap through the ballroom, checked the doors, confirmed security posts, and stepped out into the courtyard. The night had cooled. The fountain hummed. The scent of crushed boxwood leaves rose from the hedge where guests had brushed past during cocktail hour. No phone flashed on the stone lip. Elena stood by the water again. Same place. Different posture. Her hands rested on the fountain edge, open and relaxed. She heard my steps on the flagstone and turned. The board is thrilled, she said. Donors are bidding above target. The foundation chair has decided the interruption made the evening feel dramatic in a way that wealthy people apparently enjoy. That is the most charitable explanation. She also wants to know if your accounting department can be listed as an in-kind sponsor. I will warn them. She said it with love. Accounting prefers fear. The smile that crossed Elena's face this time was tired, unguarded, and fully hers. Then the tiredness caught up with her. I saw it in the slight drop of her shoulders, the hand that touched the fountain for balance, the tiny delay before she blinked. The adrenaline was draining, leaving the body to account for the bill. She looked at the secure brass key clipped to my belt. Then back toward the hotel. Walk me to the annex, she said quietly. I do not want the hallway to feel like his territory. Yes. I did not offer my arm. I offered my hand, palm up, and waited. She looked at it for a second, then chose to take it. Her grip was steady, not desperate, not dramatic. A decision. We walked through the side corridor, past the service elevator, to the private annex lift. The hotel was still alive around us, but softer here. Distant music, muted footsteps, the faint mechanical breath of elevators moving behind walls. At her door, the green lock light blinked after she tapped her secure key. I checked the corridor once. Clear. You are safe here, I said. She looked at me from the doorway. And if I call the front desk? Sarah will answer until midnight. Marcus, after that, I will be on property until the final guest leaves. Still aligning pins? Always. She held my gaze. For a second, the hall narrowed to the low hum of the light above us and the tiny click of the lock resetting. Then she stepped into her suite. "Good night, Nathan." "Good night, Elena." She closed the door. The deadbolt slid into place. I stood long enough to hear it. Then I walked back downstairs to finish the event. 6 months later, I stood near the back wall of a downtown gallery holding a glass of sparkling water and trying to look like I belonged at an opening where half the guests used words like spatial conversation with complete sincerity. The gallery had white walls, old brick arches, and a narrow courtyard behind it, full of potted boxwood. The fountain there was smaller than the meridians, barely more than a stone basin, but the gentle water hum reached me even through the open doors. David Vance was gone from Elena's professional life. Not vanished magically, removed properly. Cease and desist orders, foundation governance changes, a civil complaint over the spoofed logs, donor letters correcting the public record, the boring and necessary paperwork that makes a victory last longer than applause. Elena's event firm had grown. Her foundation had raised more money than expected. Her name stood alone on the gala archive, not because anyone erased history, but because the evidence finally matched it. We had taken our time. After the gala, there had been coffee in public places. Then, walks after work. Then, a dinner where she arrived 15 minutes late because she refused to leave a florist crying over a ruined installation. Then, another dinner where I admitted I alphabetized emergency access cards when stressed, and she said that was either charming or a warning sign. No crisis, no room key, no gratitude debt, just two people learning whether the quiet between them could hold without a threat forcing it to. Across the gallery, Elena stood with a group of artists and donors, wearing an elegant emerald dress with a high neckline and her hair pinned back. She looked free in a way the courtyard version of her had not yet known was possible. A prominent donor approached her. I saw the question land before I heard it. "And who is your friend near the back?" Elena's eyes found mine across the room. She did not hesitate. She crossed the gallery, past the critics and city officials and artists, until she reached me by the wall. Then she slid her hand into mine. Not hidden under the table. Not in a hallway. In front of everyone. "This is Nathan," she said, "my partner." The word settled between us like a key turning cleanly in a lock. I squeezed her hand once and let her be the one to step closer. The donor smiled and moved on. Elena looked up at me. "You survived the art people." "Barely." "The night is young. Then I may need a map." She laughed, and the fountain in the courtyard kept humming behind us. Through the open door, the boxwood leaves stirred in the night air, green and sharp and familiar. I thought of the first night, the closed courtyard, the dead phone, the brass key heavy in my pocket, a woman waiting to see whether I would become another problem. Now her hand rested in mine because she chose it. No pressure. No locked door. No forced pins. Just tension released because both of us had taken the time to align what mattered. The end.